This review has been made possible by Lexus of Naperville. Lexus of Naperville has the Lexus for you, whether it be new or used. Lexus of Naperville is located at 2480 Aurora Avenue in Naperville, Illinois, or you can visit their website at www.lexusofnaperville.com. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am in a 2020 Porsche Panamera 4. Up front is a 3.0 liter turbocharged V6, and down below is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US. But let's get back to that 3.0 liter turbocharged V6. Well, it's a very similar motor to the one that was put in the Macan. I've reviewed that and I absolutely loved it. So without further ado, let's get it out on the test track. Let's see what this thing can do. All right, so pulling up to the start line here. I do have paddle shifters, by the way. So let's go into Sport Plus suspension. Gonna twist this knob here to Sport Plus. It just got a lot louder. We'll do a little bit of windows down, and I'm just gonna kind of put my foot into it. Here we go. Oh my God! Oh man, that kicked me right there. Let's do a little bit of a roll into it. Let's get around this corner. The PDK not wanting to shift. It is holding on to those revs. Here we go, into the straight. Oh man, even from a roll, it's a lot more brutal than the Macan, which makes sense. The Macan is a little SUV. Let me pull over here and get out of all of the sport modes, because man, I don't need to break my spine. It packs a punch, man. It definitely packs a punch, and it sounds great. It looks great doing it, and man, I love this thing. I love the driving experience of this. Paired to it is a PDK transmission, which is Porsche's dual clutch, essentially. It stands for something very long, and I love it. It shifts lightning quick. It's one of the fastest shifting transmissions I think I've ever driven. They've put this in a lot of their models, and I absolutely love it. I really think it's genuinely a great transmission. It feels great. It's aggressive. It's right there. It doesn't hesitate. And I absolutely love that. Now, last but not least, this is the Panamera 4, which means that it is all-wheel drive. That's what that 4 stands for at the end of the name. This is nowhere near the top of the Panamera's trim levels, and we'll see how I feel about that. I'll mention it a lot probably during this video, but I drove a 2019 Panamera GTS out on a racetrack last summer, and that experience might be pretty hard to beat, but we're gonna try to do it here today. The one issue I have with the all-wheel drive system is something that the Audi all-wheel drive system kind of suffered from. Older Audi all-wheel drive systems. Let me see if I can do it. I'll try to be real quiet here. It's not doing it now. When I first got into it and the car was cold, I was turning real hard, like the wheel was fully cranked. I was going slow, but the wheel was all the way cranked. It felt like I had a welded differential. It was sort of wheel hopping a little bit. It felt like it didn't want to quite do it. Let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have one main physical gauge. That's right in the center. That's my center-mounted tachometer. I absolutely love this. I love center-mounted tachometers. It just makes me feel so much more in tune with the vehicle, what the engine is doing, and things like that. To the left, I do have digital gauges. So right now, it's telling me the outside temperature, my speedometer, and then on the right, I have like fuel. It's showing me my fastest lap, but I could switch it to an entire navigation screen, service time, intervals, my coolant temperature, oil pressure, battery voltage, tire pressure, drive distribution. So right now it's sending most of the power to the rear wheels as I'm just cruising here. My G-forces, fastest lap, and then we're back to the navigation. So a lot of things, and I love the fact that it gives you a very customizable gauge cluster. Because they are screens, why not give us the customization that we really want. On the steering wheel, we have a bunch of things. On the left, I do have a scroll wheel for the left screen, so I can set speed limits, navigation, things like that, very basic. Then I have my mute button, back button, volume, and on the right, I have my telephone options, the wheel to control the right screen, and a configurable button. It's a little diamond, which is really, really cool. I can set it to be something. So let's assign a function. I can set it to be the heads-up display on and off, change source, repeat driving instructions, next track. We could set it to be a climate control. We could set it to be anything, which is really, really nice. This is a really smart option, a really smart idea by Porsche, because, you know, sometimes there isn't a button on the steering wheel that I use all the time, and why not have it configurable? I think that that's really, really smart. Down on the bottom right of the steering wheel, however, I do have a drive mode selector dial. So there is normal, sport, sport plus, and individual, which is your personal settings. The overall steering wheel is really nice. It's sort of this gray brown as with the rest of the interior, and I think it looks classy. I think it looks really classy overall, and I really like it. To the left of me, I do have my headlight switches, fog light switches, and that is where the key is. It's a typical Porsche thing to have the key off to the left. Then I have two different memory seat options, lock and unlock, my window switches, mirrors, and trunk on the door. Then in the center, I get probably my favorite part of modern Porsches, which is the analog clock, which mirrors the center-mounted tachometer. The hand on the clock as well as the arm on the tachometer is the exact same, red with a little line down the center. I absolutely love this. Porsche does this with all of their vehicles, and they always match the clock to the tachometer. So some tachometers have an orange arm. They match it with that clock. I think it ties the whole car together, and it really makes this car feel thought out and not just an afterthought that they wanted to put a clock in it. I love that. I absolutely love that feature. Then we come to the center display screen. Porsche has upped their size recently, and it is wonderful. I absolutely love Porsche infotainment systems. I think it's easy to see, easy to use, and we have so much stuff in here. I mean, we have, I'm gonna pull over here. So we have parking assist, climate controls. I mean, we can control upper vent, center vent, lower vent. I mean, distribution, everything there. Let's look at the car, locking, light and visibility, seat settings, tire pressure monitoring, your specialty button on the steering wheel, service history, Porsche Car Connect app, sound. We can actually adjust where the sound is sent in the vehicle, the balance, the tone, the volume, and system. I can turn on and off some systems, some sound systems. That is insane, and I absolutely love it. Following off of that is the center console, and we'll talk about what each button does and everything, but they have cleaned up their center consoles. The old Cayennes, the Macans still suffer from this, but the old Cayennes also used to have way too many buttons, so many buttons in the middle that it was too much. They've simplified it. They've simplified it so much. So up at the top, I do have my radio options, media, car, source, climate, all of that sort of stuff that we just went through with the touch screen. Then I have my actual climate controls for driver and passenger, so dual climate zones with physical buttons. And then down below, I have heated and cooled seats, front and rear defrosters, my suspension settings, and my traction control settings. All very, very clean, very crisp. The only thing about it is that the buttons are what's called piano black. It's a very glossy black. And I touched the suspension once, and now there's my thumbprint on it. I wish it wasn't so. But besides that, they cleaned it up a lot, and they're not real physical buttons, but when you hit them, it vibrates ever so slightly, so it gives you the tactile feedback of an actual button, and I like that a lot because it kind of confirms in your head that you actually hit a button. Then I do have a little ashtray that is openable. Now, the seats are very comfortable. Like I said, heated. I have two different memory settings, but the passenger has 3 different memory settings. Again, the most I've ever seen in a car, so you can have 3 different passenger settings set, which is absolutely awesome. I think memory seats are really one of my favorite things to find in cars, and the passenger seat has that as well. As the passenger seat is heated and cooled. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's hop into the back, and then we'll also hop into the hatch, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're in the back of the 2020 Porsche Panamera 4. First of all, legroom great. The seats have very high bolsters. They feel like actual like, they feel closer to racing seats than just a standard back seat of a car. I absolutely love it. They hug you really well. Do have a little center console, little cubby hole in there, and then down here I actually have cup holders that I can open. A little small, but they are cup holders, and 2 USB charging ports, which is really, really cool. I also have controls for the rear sunshade, so I can do it myself. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's really nice. I can control it on my own. But overall, I actually don't get a center seat. This is a 2+2, so there is a center, really center console here just for the rear passengers. I have my own 2 little vents. I have vents over here in the B pillars, top and bottom. Of course, power windows. I have sunshades and a little light. But let's look at the hatch. So here's the hatch. It is a hatchback. I mean, as you can see, it looks like a 911 kind of from here. But this is the inside. Very nice. I do have some tie downs. Looks like this panel might come up. Oh, got some nice Porsche stuff. Bose sound system. Got some tie downs. No, oh wait, no, there is. Little port. So actually, it's really nice, and you can just hit that. Last thing about the interior is I do have sort of a split sunroof. I like it. It's nice. It's not a full glass roof, but it adds a lot of nice light to the cabin, and I like that a lot. Now we got to talk about the looks. I like the look of the Panamera. I think the higher trim levels look a lot better, and the wagon or shooting brake or estate version, whatever you want to call it, I think it looks better. But that being said, this is a Porsche. It still looks good. I would spec different wheels, but that's just my own personal taste. Overall, I think it looks great. I think it looks classy, and it looks modern. The first generation Panamera is such a hideous vehicle, but they really, really turned it around for this body style, and I like that a lot. And so let's talk about sort of the title. Should you spend more money on this car? Should you get the Panamera 4, or should you spec out the GTS? Should you go all out when it comes to the Panamera? And that's a tough one, because personally, yes, I think the twin turbo V8 Panamera, it looks great. It sounds amazing. It's so, I think it might be the best sedan ever made. I mean, at least that I've ever driven. But that comes with a very hefty price tag. And that's not to say that this doesn't. This right now, as spec'd, is just right at about $92,000. This isn't a cheap car. But then again, you don't get a cheap car. If I was a business person or, an executive, and I wanted something nice, something quick, something that feels like I earned it, then this is fine. I don't need a blood-pumping GTS. I don't need above 500 horsepower. This has around 320 according to Porsche's website, which also, if you've never been to Porsche's website, they give you, like, every single fact about it. Like, the suspension setup, the curb weight, like the length, width, and height of the body. They give you amazing statistics on Porsche.com. I'd highly recommend going and checking that out. For 99% of people, this is going to be enough. This is going to be enough power, enough luxury, enough features. This is going to be actually well above enough. But for me personally, having driven a GTS, I've been spoiled. And of course, I'd have to lean that way. This, if you can't do a GTS, there's nothing to thumb your nose at about this car. They say once you drive a Porsche, you never want to drive anything else. There's a lot of truth to that. I still want to drive other cars, but Porsches have really become the benchmark of what I compare vehicles to. I drove the 2020 911. Unfortunately, I wasn't given enough time with the car to give it a proper review, but there's nothing like cornering in a Porsche 911. There's just nothing like it. The feeling of it is spot on. And even in the Panamera, this giant vehicle is so much heavier than the 911, but just as fun out on the racetrack. And the Macan, as long as you don't get the 2-liter turbo, you get the bigger engine offered, is a great and powerful SUV, and the Cayenne is the same way. Porsche really is a benchmark in my mind. Oh, I love these things. I love them with all my heart. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Lexus of Naperville for allowing me to take out their 2020 Porsche Panamera 4. This car is just, it's something you have to experience. It's everything coming together at once. And so their website is up on the screen. This car is for sale right now. I'd highly recommend checking them out. If you're in the market for one of these, do it. Just do it. If you're not in the market of these, Lexus still has a ton of used and new cars on the lot. They're always getting new inventory in, so if you don't find something now that you want, I'm sure they'll get it in pretty soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really like to. Take care, guys.
Aside from my soul.